right, and then I'm good to go.
So what's it like being Mark King's right hand, I would say, because I think he's one of the best people at attracting talent and finding talent and training talent. So what's the number one thing Mark King has taught you about talent?
Yeah, that's a great question, Caleb. So, when I was entertaining, it was about 8 market centers when I was at Fort Mill and I was getting ready to take the next move. Mark was always at the center of the opportunities that I wanted. And it was for the answer to your question is Mark's a multiplier. And if you haven't read the book Multipliers, I would pick it up immediately. If this conversation today at all is something that you're going to pursue in terms of succeeding through others, building an organization through people, Multipliers is probably the best book I've come across. And what that means, Caleb, is Mark isn't a diminisher. He's not a micromanager. He's not a boss. He knows how to get the best out of people. He knows how to attract massive talent, let that talent do what it needs to do, and he knows how to challenge that talent to get the most out of them. Mark also doesn't hire what we call cul-de-sac talent. He doesn't hire people who are just fit for the job that they're taking in that moment. He always hires them for the job that's 3 years down the road that he knows he's going to need, right? And so that puts him in a position of growth. And so the number one I think I've learned from him is, and really by learn, Caleb, I mean, I model it, is his ability to multiply others. It doesn't matter if it's the market center, if we're coaching 8 of the market centers that he owns, if he's coaching the entire region or the entire company. His ability to multiply the people around him to get the most out of them as a resource so that they get the most out of the experience is the number one thing I've learned from him. And it's a challenge. It's a challenge to become that level of multiplier.
Tell us more on that. Like, elaborate more on like what specifically he's doing.
Sure. So part of your multiplier, the first thing you got to be is a talent magnet, right? You've got to be able to attract talent. Also, what multipliers do really well is they're debate makers, right? Instead of just deciding things for the entire organization or the team, they will ask really powerful questions and what if questions, or hey, Jim, what would it look like if 3 doors did X, right? And allow the team to fill in the blank, right? To bring out that genius. So he's a great debate maker. He's always asking what if to let us feel empowered to come up with solutions. He's an amazing challenger. I get that firsthand and sometimes in public arenas, right? Where he's going to make sure that you're getting challenged by the work detail and by the level of success that you choose to have, right? And the opposite of that, Jim, to help you out is instead of a debate maker, you'd have a decision maker, right? Hey, here's what I decided, Nita. Now let's go do it, right? You get very little say-so in it, and I'm just going to hand you down a directive, right? Instead of a multiplier, you'd have a diminisher or an empire builder. Okay, someone who wants to build their own empire and use everyone else to do it. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's a different kind of leader, right? There's empire builders and there's multipliers. Multipliers are resourceful. They get the most out of the people that they have. They get more than 100%. They get more than that individual thought they had in them in terms of their insights, their acumen, their skill sets. And that's what a multiplier does really well is they get the highest rate of return on the people that are around them.
So as far as multiplying and looking at someone and finding out where they're going to be in 3 years, what do you think? How do I phrase this the right way? How do you think is a really good way to find people, or is it during an interview process, or how do you check people that are going to be?
Absolutely, everything starts with the interview process, right? With the selection process, and there's when you're talking about talent, Caleb, there's really 3 different kinds of talent. There's potential talent, there's emerging talent, and then there's proven talent. Potential talent is someone who you think, based on what you're seeing, could do the job, right? They can get it done at a high level. They've got the behavior to suggest it. They've got the skill sets and the knowledge that you think could get the job done, but they don't have any experience, right? The next step would be emerging talent. This is an individual who's done the job or a similar job to a certain extent, and they've kind of proven themselves a little bit, and they're on their way up, right? And that's a little bit more valuable to have on your team at that point. And then there's proven talent, right? Someone who has killed it in the role that they're in, that you're hiring, that you know for a fact will perform, It's a no-brainer, and that's proven talent, right? When you're answering the 3-year question, like, hey, I'm going to hire this person today, and we're going to see if it can take them to the next role in 3 years. You actually figure that out in the first 90 days if you use the right training program. You figure out the first 90 days if you've hired true talent, right? Because in the interview process, Caleb, what we do is we use a system to find out what someone's behavior is, what their skill sets look like, and then we find out what they're motivated by. Finding out what someone's motivated by will tell you whether or not they're in alignment with where you're going in 3 years. And if they are, why? What is it that they get out of the success that you're having in 3 years when that individual is promoted to that role, when they've grown your company to whatever it is in 3 years? What's motivating them to do that? All of that gets uncovered in the interview process and the selection process. The system we use here at Keller Williams is called career visioning. It's about a 7-hour combined interview process. Most people can't even believe what's going on halfway through. Like, I'm like, hang on. We're about 2 days into a 5-day process. Whether or not we get together on this is yet to be determined, but you're going to get a ton of value out of this, right?
I love that. I'm a huge fan of career visioning. So I love that you guys use that process. We're really big about it too. And I think maybe diving into that for people a little bit, can you give us a quick rundown of what the career visioning process is and what that looks like as far as when you're interviewing people?
Absolutely, because I have companies that are outside of real estate that use the career visioning process, telecommunication companies. What the career visioning process starts with, I'll just take you down the stages of it, is you have what's called a job fit and a personal report, right? That you validate with an individual. The personal report is going to break down all their behaviors, right? And they get a chance to validate whether or not those things are true or not. And you get a chance in that moment to really dig deep with powerful questions about, tell me a little bit more about your level of assertiveness. You know, when has that shown up in your past life? When did that show up in business and help you? Hey, it says here that you're overly optimistic and that sometimes you will maintain your optimism even when the objective situation doesn't warrant it. Talk to me about how that can be a challenge for you. And so the personal report allows you to understand someone's behavior. Then you go into what's called the job fit analysis, which shows them how well they match for a certain role in your organization on a scale of 1 to 100 and why. All right. After that, you get to go into what's called thought process interview, Caleb. That one's money. That's a huge part of it because when you understand how someone thinks, they can actually influence you with that. You can understand in order to understand why someone behaves a certain way, they're thinking that way, right? Thoughts lead to actions. So there's a part called the thought process interview to see how people think critically around situations. It's incredibly insightful. After that, the motivational piece I talked about is a big deal. You use a system to find out what they're motivated by, and almost 9 times out of 10, it's not money. Money's part of it. But money's only good for the good that it can do for most people that I hire that are talented, and there's something on the other end of those dollars, right? Family or vacations or fitness or health or security. And then when you find out why that's so important, you really start to dig deep on what's motivating an individual to perform. Okay. Now, there's a couple other generic things in that process, like reference checks and group interviews and things like that. But those 3 things are really key is the personal report, the thought process interview, find out how someone thinks so that you understand why they're behaving a certain way, and then the motivational interview.
I like one part you started to talk there about is like money. So most people, they think like, oh, everyone must change jobs to make more money. But I heard something the other day, and I'm curious about your comment on this. Only, I think it was 17% of people quit a job for money.
I believe that.
60 to 70% of people quit jobs because they don't have a good leader. I like talking about attracting talent, finding talent. How do you think is a really good way to lead that talent?
So, there's a page in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. I think it's 137. You'll have to check me, but it talks about what talent is versus non-talent, right? And the good thing about when you actually do get talent with you, leading it is challenging them. It's coaching them and it's giving them blue sky, right? Talent pushes back, Caleb, right? And the question you really want to ask yourself before you ask that one is, who do I have to become in order to attract massive talent? That's the number one question. You know, who do I need to become to attract an amazing integrator like Sarah Hortzman? Right? Who does Mark need to become to attract team leaders in all of his market centers that are top talented people? Right? And that's a really good question to ask yourself. And then the one thing you have to have if you want to attract talent is a massive vision. We'll talk about money all day. Talent loves vision. Talented people.
And you have to be able to cast that vision.
Yeah, you got to be able to cast a vision. You have to be able to show people where you're going, and talent will get excited. They'll light up. And if you have a whiteboard in front of you, Caleb, and you start to cast a vision, talented people will get up and grab a marker and start to fill it in for you. Right? That's what they're attracted to. Opportunity, vision, people who think big.
I love that because I'm such a big thinker. I'm such a visionary. And I've learned over the years, especially when it comes to hiring and training talent, that you also have to continually tell them about your vision. I think too often people stop talking about their vision because they think that what's in their brain that everyone else around them knows. And if you don't cast your vision repeatedly and constantly and so much that you think you're probably being annoying, your talented people are going to go elsewhere.
100%. And the vision you have to see carried out throughout the organization, right? You see evidence of our vision here in Keller Williams Chesterfield is called the Triple 50. And that starts with 50 of our agents who never have to pay to sell real estate again, right? That's a really cool vision. When I flew into St. Louis and I get, into a conversation with Mark King, he's like, look, I want you to replace me as team leader, and I want you to get 50 of my agents passive through wealth building so that they never have to pay to sell real estate again. I'm like, I can get down with that, right? It's a really big vision. There's not other brokerages around saying, hey, we don't want our top agents to not pay us. It's the opposite, right? But then it's throughout everything that we do, right? It's in your business plan. It's in your priorities and your strategies. Everything that you do is in alignment with that vision. And then, yes, Caleb, you're absolutely right. On public platforms and daily meetings and conversations, you're always casting that vision. It has to be the bricks of a building are held together by mortar. That mortar is the vision. It's throughout.
Well,
that's one. Sorry, Jim. Go.
I'd like to just add something here too, guys. So we've been talking about kind of recruiting, attracting people on on your company, but this works really well for vendors, for third party as well. So one of the things I did when I was first starting out was I said, hey, I'm going places. I'm going to do some big things, Mr. Contractor. This isn't about just this job. It's about us doing repeated jobs over and over again and kind of casting more of hey, you want to work with me for today in this job, but also I want that long-term relationship as well that we can build and we can do.
That's a great
deals together.
Great point. It's a great point, Jim. You're not casting your vision just to hire talent. You cast it to attract talent, to attract people to you. I've got a vendor in Chesterfield that wasn't with our office inspector before I arrived. And when I did get here, they came to meet me and they came to an Power Hour and we talked about the Triple 50 and we had this big vision and they asked for a meeting immediately and they were in alignment with it. They were attracted to it, right, Caleb? And they went from 5 deals in our office in 2019 to I think 68 deals in 2020 in their first year.
Wow.
And so now we're business partners growing each other's businesses. Right. And that's all from vision casting, right? People want to be part of that. They want to be part of something. No one wants to do something that's ideal, not talented people.
Yeah, no, they want to do something different, something bigger, something new. So talking about casting your vision a little bit, one thing I love that we do at Three Doors, and this could be a really good suggestion for a lot of you guys, is every meeting, at the beginning of our meetings, we talk about our vision. We also go through our mission and everything like that. But I can't beat it through people's heads enough, I think, is kind of where I'm going at with this, is you have to continually cast your vision and where you want to go and how you want to help people. And then all of your people are going to stay on board and they're going to want to push that and propel you so much more.
Vision leaks.
Everyone's got one. Everyone has one. Every organization has one. It's just how big is it and how well articulated is it? You may not have it written down and you may not ever say it to anybody, but it's there. It's how you show up every day. It's whatever you're trying to achieve. And so the level of talent that you attract is going to be in direct proportion to the vision that you have, right? I'm not coming to St. Louis if Mark King doesn't want to build a massive network of market centers where we can go create passive income wealth for agents all over the country. I'm not coming here unless he's thinking that big, I was in South Carolina. I was in Charlotte. I mean, it's warm there. You know what I mean?
A lot warmer than it is in St. Louis today, that's for sure. Um, so let's go into maybe surrounding yourself with like title company talent and contractor talent. Somewhere where we're not interviewing 7 steps, we're not doing career visioning. But what's a really good way to look into, is a title company good? Is this contractor good? Is it part of being like a part of a network, or what do you think? What's your suggestion to people to find talent that you aren't hiring, that's just going to be in business with you?
Yeah, I call those allied resources. Those are key to your business growth, right? They're key. Every investor, every businessman or woman that has a strong business and organization has allied resources, right? And the way that I pick them is I meet everybody. I understand who all the players are and from what industries. I do my homework. I see who has a really good reputation for service and who has a really good reputation for the things that I want to stand for, right, Caleb? I want them in alignment with me and what I'm trying to achieve. And as I start to narrow that down in the relationships, I'll create exclusivity there with a small group of 5 allied resources, and I never have more than 5, because these are powerful relationships, these vendors, to me and my organization. And I can't manage more than 5 relationships in a powerful way with allied resources. And so to answer your question is, you do it the same way you would pick a friend. You do it the same way you'd pick anything. It's going to be a relationship, right? Are we in alignment here? And it's not always so objective and, analytical. You can be, but are we in alignment here? Do you do good business? Do I do good business? And is there a path for us moving forward to do it together? And once I have that, I prioritize that individual. And my job is to grow their business first, not to ask them to grow mine. Right? My job is to coach them in their business and to help them build their business. And my business will grow in direct proportion to how valuable I am to them. Right? That's just my rule of relationships.
And it's always about giving more value than you ever take. If you come at relationships and you come at allied resources and you give value before you take, they're going to serve you at such a higher level too and help your needs out. I think that's
well, it's a law of reciprocity. It exists. You can only do so much good for an individual or a group of people before they feel inclined to have to do it back, right? And that's one angle to look at it. But I mean, it's just a universal law, Caleb. I mean, you get what you put into somebody or something. And I think a lot of us with referral partners or vendors or allied resources want to get into business together, partner up, and hey, help me, right? Help me. Do you have any leads, or do you have any of this, or can you help me? And we'll help each other. It's never going to work at a high level that way, right?
And so if I can add something to this, guys, like this is one of the most important mindset shifts that an entrepreneur needs to make over an employee. Okay. An employee, what do? You show up, you put your time in, but you're showing up to receive that paycheck, right? As an entrepreneur, it's completely different. The amount of money you make is proportionate to the amount of value you create, the amount of value that you give out to the world and provide for other people. Then the money kind of comes back. So it's a value creation mindset. And that's with your relationships, that's with your service or your product or whatever widget your business is. Like it starts with you as a source giving some sort of value.
Well, here's a great analogy, Jim. It's all about how you think. We study, we know that Think and Grow Rich, Millionaire Real Estate Agents, so many books out there, so much literature out there that says that you have to think a certain way before you can behave a certain way, receive a certain thing, right, Caleb? You got to be able to think $1 million before you earn $1 million, right? Well, as a real estate investor, Jim, you know how to identify value, right, in properties. And you wake up every day and probably tell yourself, I'm an investor, I'm going to find a deal today, right? And I've got the ability, I got time, and I got money, and the relationship of those 3 is going to determine, what I can do with that property, right? But I'm going to go find a deal to invest in, right, Jim?
Absolutely.
I do the same thing, only I do it with people. It's the exact same thing. I do it with people. The same mindset. I wake up every day. I go, I'm an investor, and I'm going to go find some people to invest in today, right? With the ability I have, the time, and the money I have, I'm going to go get a massive return out of a relationship today, right? In whichever way that we find in that conversation. And I think about it the same way that an investor does with property or with real estate, but with people.